I've been shooting with the 180 to 600 for a couple of days now, and honestly, I think it's the best value lens in the whole Nikon Z lineup. Okay folks, this must be just about the most requested lens for me to test out for you guys. And I know I'm 2 months late to the party, but the 180 to 600 mm variable aperture lens is here. And I can see what all the fuss is about. When the 100 to 400 was announced, I bought it to use alongside my 70 to 200. And I really like it. It's an S lens. I use it for all kinds of different purposes, but it works really well, and I think for $2,700, it's pretty good value, not amazing. Well, the new guy is a full $1,000 less. Now, admittedly, the 100 to 400 extends quite a bit, which equalizes the size, but you'll see this is quite big. It doesn't extend, however, and at $1,700, it really puts it in the range of like the Sigma and Tamron 150 to 600s. So let's see how these two compare. And hopefully I can help you justify plonking down the $1,700 to buy this one. We're at Chingy Park and we're on the lookout for kingfishers. Okay, so we've only been here 10 minutes admittedly, but I've only seen butterflies and turtles so far, not really a single bird. But just behind me there's like 20 guys with long lenses on gimbals. I'm guessing there's something to see over here. Hopefully more than butterflies. You're all from the same club? This park was really great to shoot in. On one hand, yes, there's lots of nice nature around. It was a fairly big park, but you got to keep in mind we're still in the middle of Hong Kong. This is smack dab in the city. It's not like you're really out hiding in the wilderness. And I got the impression, at least from the outfits, that some of the other guys here take this a little bit more seriously than I do. Reminder, today I'm comparing the 180 to 600 to the 100 to 400. I also brought along the 2x and the 1.4x teleconverters so that we can get a variety of different shots, somewhat equalizing the overall focal length. You'll note once you extend the 100 to 400, it gets similar in length, but it's definitely a significantly smaller lens. If you're a Nikon Z shooter, check out my expert setup guide. It takes you through the entire Nikon range, APS-C and full frame, including the Z8 and 9, showing you every physical control on every one of the cameras, a complete initial setup guide for each camera, as well as a full menu deep dive that takes you through every single option in these extensively customizable cameras menu system. Details for that are below. Okay, so we did get some of the kingfisher. Unfortunately, it was all condensed within like 30 seconds, and I think it was all on the 180 to 600 lens. Then I got some of it in the tree with the other lens, but not really comparable. So this is quite boring, but there's a super cute little turtle there that's not moving a whole lot. So I can shoot some test shots of the different combinations, and we can see how they are at 100% zoom ins. turtle just moved. Okay, so that test subject is finished. Okay folks, this is just a first impressions hands-on with this lens. Not complaining, but I just got access to this like 2 months after most reviewers. It just landed into Hong Kong and I got it like an hour later. But I am this week crazy busy getting ready to head over to the Build Expo in New York City with B&H Photo, run a photo walk and some meetups, that kind of thing. You can see details on that below. If you're in or around New York City, I would love to meet all of you. Top line, I think it's performing really nicely. I think the handling is great. I think the pricing is surprisingly cheap. The only thing that's kind of jumping out at me is that the 100 to 400 is faster to pull through its focus range. Even with this one set to like 6 meters to infinity, I did notice it takes longer to pull through that range when it needs to find your subject. One thing to note, the 100 to 400 is S-line and this isn't, which goes some way towards explaining the price difference, but you have to have some, you need to see what that means in the field. I have a feeling challenging lighting and backlighting may be the difference. So let's go find even a boring subject and then see how they manage the flare. Okay, so you don't get too many opportunities. We've now got one right on the tree here and one in the water. The light on this one's really nice. You can't tell that it's old buildings behind it. And finally, getting some decent shots because it's not on anything swaying. I don't need a crazy high shutter speed. So I can get some nice clean files here despite being at a high F number. You just got to be ready to go as soon as the opportunity presents itself. So I'm trying to get as many variations of lens and teleconverter with and without to get the sample photos all right now. Beautiful.
Yeah.
That was on this flower right here?
Yeah, this flower. Only this garden is only the bird can capability to stand in this lotus flower.
Okay.
So that there are too many guys waiting here. Second year come here to take the similar picture.
Nice. It was a fun time shooting in Chingy Park. Really nice to meet some of the regular birders there. Next up, let's go photograph some football. So something to keep in mind actually with both of these lenses, I'm not trying to say you need an f2.8 lens to shoot kids soccer, but it does make a difference. The aperture really stacks up. It's still a hot day here, but it's overcast. Shooting wide open at already not that fast of a shutter speed, like 1/320th, 1/400th, and I'm already at like 1000 and above ISO. You're simply not going to get the best image quality at that level. Some of the shots I got of the kingfishers and that kind of thing, they were up at over 2000, 3000 ISO. And for some purposes that's fine, but you can really see a huge gap in the image quality if you're shooting at 200 versus 2000, for example. So just keep that in mind. You're going to want to be shooting in bright sunlight kind of conditions if you're shooting anything that requires a fast shutter speed. Okay, so it is doing really nicely, pulling focus, getting the face, that kind of thing between the players. No problem at all in these conditions. But just note, 180 on the sideline is really too long. Having 100 to 400, I think, is a better match for soccer, unless you're shooting in the bleachers or something. So look, the 180 to 600 is not a perfect lens, but no lens is. But what I said at the beginning, I really mean. I think this is the best value Nikon Z lens on the market. I mean, this little guy, the 14 to 30 f4 and f4 wide angle lens costs $1,350. The 51-2 costs $2,100, and this behemoth is only $1,700. If nothing else, just the materials in it are worth so much more. Of course, there's special lens elements in something like this, but as I'm going to show you, whilst it's not an S-line lens, it's really performing great. Let's take a look at some of the samples I took. So scrolling through, there was plenty of images that I really liked the result of. I was a bit put off at first when I was looking through my images when the Kingfisher first appeared, that it just seemed a bit soft. Now, to be fair, that was with the 2x teleconverter, and I don't care what lens you're using, teleconverters do degrade your image. If you're using something absolutely pristine like the 200 f2 or a 400 2.8, the degradation is coming from such a high place that they still absolutely stand up, but most lenses are going to take a noticeable hit. So I thought maybe it was that. It's got a 2x teleconverter, it's at wide open at its longest possible reach of 1200 mil. But as I looked at others, I found they were really, really sharp, even though this was in direct light. I don't know if the bird just has a matte finish to it or it was a factor of the ISO, but I had other shots at reasonably high ISO that looked much better. And these ones later in the day of the other bird are just crystal sharp, beautifully sharp, and good contrast, beautiful color. I think it's a great performing lens. And one thing that I was concerned about, being that it's not an S lens, so we did that little test, was how it handles backlighting and flare, that kind of thing. Honestly, it's not a huge difference. So this is the 180 to 600 at 180, having the sun in the far left corner. And you can see, yep, it's washing out. Yep, we're getting a little bit of fringing in there, but it's really not terrible by any means. Jumping up to 600 mil, this time putting it in the top right corner. We're getting a color pattern through the flare. Again, the details being eaten away and it doesn't have great contrast in the shadow areas anymore. But having shot lots of lenses, I can tell you that's not a terrible result. This is the 100 to 400 at 100. It's retaining a bit better detail, but not crazy. And here at 400, a reasonably similar result, to be honest. A little bit less color pattern coming through there, but considering it's $1,000 more expensive with 200 millimeter shorter reach, I think this is doing great. One thing that some of you asked about was how does this style of tripod collar work, and does it work smoothly? And I really think, considering, you know, they're putting it at this price point, there are trade-offs. This is a different style of collar. Everything works really well. It functions beautifully, everything moves nicely, there's good resistance on the focus and on the zoom. It's got your function buttons and everything. I really think it's a class lens, and at $1,700, if this focal length works for you, don't hesitate. It's a phenomenal lens. I believe these have just gone on sale already. After months and months and months of waiting. I appreciate I'm 2 months late to the party on this guy, so once I'm back from New York, I'll do my best to test this out further. Let me know what else you'd like to see tested. Hopefully by then it will be a bit cooler and we'll have a bit more bird life here in Hong Kong. Thanks to Nikon Hong Kong for letting me loan this one so quickly after getting it in stock, and I'll see you guys really soon. Hope I'll see some of you in New York.